Hey guys, welcome back to Retrospect. Today I'm going to be painting some more shiny stuff. I'm using this Schmincke Aqua Bronze Metallic Pigment, and I'm also going to be using my Fine-Tec or Coliro Gold Metallic Watercolors. So you can see that this is actually just powder. When I bought it I didn't realize that and I was expecting it to be a liquid, so the first time I opened it I was like, huh. But it's actually really fun to use. So I'm just scooping a bunch out onto my palette, and making sure to close the lid is very important when you have expensive powders. It's not that expensive, but I think the little jar was $20, so fairly expensive for what it is. Anyways, I decided to add a fair amount of water. You can definitely play around with the ratio of water to pigment that you use, but you want it to be fairly fluid. And the less water you have, the thicker the paint will be and more opaque. So I have this little typography piece that I did up here in watercolor, and I'm just going to go in and add some embellishments with the Schmincke watercolor, or the Schmincke pigment rather. It applies fairly nicely. It's a bit more gritty than the Coliro watercolor palette, but that's because it's a pigment and, I guess I could spend a lot of time mixing it up if I wanted to, but as you saw in the palette I didn't mix it that much. I think you can also add this into existing watercolors if you wanted to mix a bit of the pigment with like a dollop of a watercolor color. You could get a cool effect with that. You can also use it as a light wash to add sort of some subtle glitter to things. But you can see it kind of sits on top of the paper, but it makes such a very vivacious and eye-catching shimmer. It's very pretty. I got the pale gold color, I believe, but there were 3 or 4 different additional choices at the art store that I bought it that were available, like a bronzy copper one and like a more standard gold and a silver, I believe. There may have been more, but I chose this one. And one thing that I did notice as I was working with it is it does sort of leave crumbs in places as if it were like a glitter. And I decided to test it out, layering it a bit more thickly and just more abstract in this little sketchbook piece I did. I'm just adding a couple more dots here, but you can see how shiny it is and how it really sits nicely over the watercolor. It's quite beautiful. And if I were to take a wet brush and run it over, like rub it over any of the areas, it would lift up. So it's not very water permanent and it doesn't set. It does dry, but you can always reactivate it. And now I'm just comparing with a little bit of the Fine-Tec stuff. I'm going to just use Fine-Tec and Coliro interchangeably because that's just, they changed their name to Coliro from Fine-Tec and I keep forgetting that. I decided to use a really thin brush for this. I mean, I love the Coliro watercolors. They are beautiful and they're super easy to use, not as messy, and you can just sort of pick it up and go whenever you want. I wouldn't say there's necessarily a downside to either with this, like aside from the portability and the ease of use. Both of them produce beautiful results. It just depends on what you're after. And they're not too dissimilar actually. You can see a bit more of the individual glitter chunks in the pigment as opposed to just sort of a smooth metallic sheen in the Coliro stuff. But other than that, yeah, they're both really nice and I would recommend using either. The Coliro offers way more color options than the Schmincke does, but you can do a lot more in terms of mixed media stuff with the Schmincke. Anyways guys, thank you so much for watching this short video. I'll see you in the next one. Have a good one. Bye!